for all local calls. Please hang up and redial using the area code plus the 7-digit number. This is a message from...
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm going to be jumping on a call with Jamaican Carlos in a few seconds to talk about the affairs here in Jamaica, and I'm inviting you to be a part of that discussion. So just hang on for a second. Let me just connect with him here. Okay. So we'll begin with that, put the one in. All right, so here we go. Hopefully you can hear him clearly. I'll try to set this up so that you can be a part of the conversation as well. Welcome to all of you who might be on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. This is Joseph Patterson, President of the United Independence Congress of Jamaica. I'm just trying to set up my phone here so you can hear the conversation I'm about to have with Jamaican Carlos, a very inspiring young man who does a great job of connecting with Jamaicans around the world, sharing his thoughts on life here and inviting discussion. I'm very pleased to be a part of that. Good morning. Good morning, Carlos. How are you doing today? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. I can hear you very clearly. Yes, I can.
Try to get you on the Bluetooth.
Okay. And just so you know, I'm connecting live on my Facebook as well. So that Good morning, Sir Carlos. How are you? Excellent. Well, I would love to say, first of all, Carlos, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in a discussion with you and all of those wonderful persons that are following your discussions from day to day. The last time I checked, I saw about 53,000 or so persons following your conversations online, and I am quite impressed and happy to see that so many Jamaicans overseas and locally are tuning in to talk about the things affecting Jamaica and the things affecting those of us living here in Jamaica, as well as Jamaicans abroad, because we're all one big family. We might not be here in the country. Some of us might not be here in the country, but our hearts are here, our minds are here. We're concerned every time we hear that somebody is killed, every time we hear that a community is suffering from different forms of inequities and different forms of challenges, like poor road conditions or poor health conditions. Jamaicans around the world are always caring and concerned about their fellow men. And those of us here in Jamaica are concerned about our Jamaican families across the world, suffering from the impact of COVID, whether you're in the US or UK or Canada or some other country. We here at home are concerned about your well-being, and we appreciate the constant support that Jamaicans across the diaspora have shared in their own personal gains, shared that with local Jamaicans here who might, for one reason or another, not be able to afford some of the basic necessities of life. And so I want to thank you again for having me, and I look forward to answering all the questions that Jamaicans may have concerning the future of Jamaica, the state of Jamaica, and how my political party, the UIC, is going about effecting change, and how together we can build a new and better Jamaica.
Well, Mr. thank you for choosing to come on my platform and in this cold right here and meet the people.
Yes.
Because people have stressing questions over here. So I am thankful for you to take the time out to come meet the people in this community. Not a very normal thing for politicians to do. And like I said, people in the grassroots movement, so they can see where the practice is coming from. You understand that the grassroots movement, the people movement, the people funding movement also, like I explained to you guys before, one understand the very side of movement, the people funding movement, people, small movements, and big corporations will buy out and safety and live with it. So, my first question to you is the Bible. My question is from Brenda Singleton. And I'll put this question at the top. Are you in for change or change or thought after war? That's from Brenda Singleton. Are you in this for change or thought after war?
That's a very good question, Brenda, because we have seen politicians come and go. We have seen politicians very active in Jamaicans in our lives here. And unfortunately, it appears as if the politicians seem to get richer while the people that they're supposed to represent remain stagnant or get poorer. So you're asking a very, very good question. Why am I in this? Now, first and foremost, if I'm in this for power, if I'm in this for my own personal gain, then it would have been much easier to follow what others have done and join one of the other two political parties, because that's a much easier path. A person with my background and position would be readily accepted in either of the two parties. In fact, they have all made overtures for me to join them, and I have refused flatly, because this is my position. You cannot want to fix a problem and then choose to join the problem. If I were to join any of the two political parties that have existed for over 75 years, then I would become a part of what they have done to Jamaica. I would be an accomplice to their crimes, and I would be facilitating the continuation of the kind of leadership or misleadership that they have placed upon the Jamaican people. And so I have chosen the more difficult path of creating a third political party with a mission to transform Jamaica at its core, from its core beliefs right out to the quality of life that each and every one of us as Jamaicans live. And so the UIC is a party that has chosen the most difficult path because it is the right path to say to Jamaicans, let's turn away from partisan politics. Let's join hands together. Let's focus not on fighting each other, but on working together for a really new Jamaica.
All right. If you can hear me, you guys can hear me well. If you can hear Mr. Patterson, can you hear Mr. Patterson? Give me some thumbs up that you know that you can hear. Can you hear? Can you hear Mr. Patterson, right? Can you hear? All right. Thumbs up are with the lids sometimes. You can hear. Okay, yeah. Let's click on it so you guys can hear Mr. Patterson. But that's why you can hear me. You guys can't hear me. You guys hear me all the time. I want you guys to hear me. That is what important today. So, I have another question from Swahili. Why Jamaican politicians like to sell out the country to overseas people?
A very good question, Carlos. And you need to understand the way the system is designed. Jamaica's political system is designed for our politicians to sell us out. The very design of our constitution, first of all, divides us into two tribes and causes us to take our eyes off our real enemies, which were our colonial masters and those who sought to enslave us and extract our wealth. The current design of our constitution is so that it divides us into two tribes and have us fight each other for scarce benefits and spoils. So when a politician is elected for 4 to 5 years, his or her primary objective is to A, get as much out of the situation that he or she can during those 4 to 5 years, and to be in a position financially to fight the next election in order to win and hold power, so that they have access to the purse strings of the nation and are then able to extract as much wealth as possible for them and those who have funded their campaign. So if we want a new and better Jamaica, we have to carefully look at the system that was foisted upon us by our colonial masters, which was accepted by the two major political parties, and which have been perfected by them in the art of how to trick and steal while saying that you're there to work for the poor. The UIC will change that system from the inside out. We'll strip it, redesign it, and make sure that it works to protect the interest of every single Jamaican. And I'll talk more about that when you ask me some questions about the system of governance we're going to put in place.
Peter, what are you doing to improve, or what are you going to do to improve the living condition of the poor?
Very good. So the UIC has a very, very effective plan to fix the economy of Jamaica and also to help the poor in Jamaica. Our plan is, first of all, to address the reason for poverty in Jamaica. The biggest reason for poverty in Jamaica is government. Government creates roadblocks, red tapes, and regulations that are designed to protect big businesses while crushing and impeding small businesses. It makes it very expensive, very cumbersome, and very difficult for a young entrepreneur, for a struggling small man to make it in the Jamaican economy. If you notice, the government oftentimes gives tax benefits and special waivers to companies coming into Jamaica and also to those who are a part of the commercial elite in Jamaica. And then they write regulatory rules to make it difficult for the small businesses to ever rise. It's difficult for them to access the banks. It's difficult for them to access capital. It's difficult for them to navigate and pay for the costly regulations and compliance requirements. And so they are oppressed and suppressed. The UIC is going to remove those extraneous regulations, excessive taxations, and all of the impediments in the banking system that prevents the small man, the micro enterprise, the small businesses from achieving their full potential. We're going to make Jamaica easy for Jamaicans. We're going to simplify the tax system and reduce the taxes to no more than 10% of your income. This is going to ensure that the small man retains 90% of his income to spend in the ways that he sees fit and to invest and to grow. We're going to eliminate all the other taxes, including import duties, so that the small man can access technology, can access goods and services cheaply overseas, so that he can produce quality products for export, so that he can compete. As it is right now, the small man cannot compete with imports, because if he has to buy technology from overseas, he has to pay 2 times the cost of that technology to then turn it around and make something meaningful. So he's already failing because of the government structure. So we're going to wipe out all of those excessive and unnecessary duties and taxes and reduce income tax overall to just 10% of income from all sources. Then we're going to keep the GCT, but instead of having the GCT at 15%, we're going to cut it to 10%. And that GCT tax is going to be 100% dedicated to helping the poor to acquire proper nutrition, proper housing, proper healthcare, and most importantly, quality education. If you give the people at the bottom the nutrition, the education, the healthcare, and the housing they need, they will have the capacity to produce, to be a part of the productive sector in a way that right now they're not able to. And if we, on top of that, remove the impediment of excessive regulation and overtaxation, we're going to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit of Jamaicans. And this, in and of itself, will have moved thousands of Jamaicans out of poverty and into real prosperity, not the fake one that has been spoken about over the last 5 years.
Alligator Brown said, if you are selected to be the leader of Jamaica, the crime problem is strong. What do you do to solve the crime problem?
Very good question. When Jamaicans talk about the crime problem, I often like to remind us to go back to its origin. Because you see, Carlos, if you don't understand the source of a problem, you may throw money at it, you may throw a lot of words at it and build new programs and schemes, but the problem never seems to go away. You might recall that in 1944, the two major political parties, with the support of the monarchy and the British government, formed Jamaica's first government, with the Jamaica Labour Party as the party that won the first 2 elections. And these two parties from 1944 until today, 76 years nearly, have gone back and forth between them running this country. Over that period, these two parties have consistently trained the Jamaican people to become violent towards each other and to turn their attention away from being aggressive to their colonizers and slave masters. They have trained us to hate each other. They have imported and facilitated the importation of guns and ammunition, which we don't make. They have responsibility to protect our borders, and they have not protected our borders. They have allowed all kind of illicit guns and ammunition to come into the environment. These two parties, organize criminal gangs to make garrisons of various communities. They help to fund these criminal gangs, and they also not only supported these criminal gangs, they ensured that these gangs received funding from the government in the form of contracts to do roads and other forms of public services. And as a result, they have built a crime monster. Now, here's where we have a serious problem. How can you now expect those who masterminded the creation of the gangs and garrisons, who harmed and funded these institutions that have become a very extensive part of Jamaica's culture and economy, to now turn around and remove these elements of crime from our society, when they themselves can rightly be accused of being a part of organized crime in Jamaica? I put it to you, Carlos, if we really want to fix Jamaica's crime problem, we have to start with the criminals at the top. And those are the ones who are now running our government. They're in charge of every branch of our society. They manage the hospital, the schools, the economy. They decide who gets contracts, who get work, They can destroy a person overnight if they wish. Now, if we're serious about stamping out crime, we have to stamp out organized crime. And that begins by getting rid of the two parties that created the problem, that fostered the problem, and are still protecting those who are severely hampering the development of Jamaica by making it an unsafe, unclean, and disorderly country.
Wow. Yeah, that people. This program, I've been telling the issue from there. Why not share with people? Please. Policy for your country, not for me. Policy for your country, people. Just share this policy for your country. That's all I have to share this video on Jamaica, Jamaica. We're Jamaican first. We are Jamaican first. You understand? We are Jamaican first. We are Jamaicans first. Boy, and share this video. So we have another question from Juliana. Juliana Gregory. Would you be willing to eliminate the cost of secondary education?
Oh, good question. Now, you asked me earlier on what was the UIC policy for eliminating poverty. And I said earlier that one of the key elements of eliminating poverty is education. So the UIC has committed to taking the GCT. Currently, the government takes 15% of almost every transaction you perform, 15% tax on top of that, which it then puts into its consolidated funds, and much of that money goes by the way of waste, government waste, having too many people doing too little work, getting all of that money, as well as corruption, siphoning off billions of dollars every year through corruption. The UIC is going to eliminate all of that and turn that money around and send it directly. So no middleman, no long lines, no long process, directly to ensure that every single child in Jamaica receives the best quality education possible, regardless of the economic position of their parents. Now, unlike the current programs that talk about free education, the UIC does not talk about free. We want every child to know that that education is very expensive. It costs money to have quality teachers. It costs money to have good schools. It costs money to have quality teaching aids. And so the UIC is going to build an education system where parents and guardians and every citizen appreciate the cost of education and are involved in paying for it and never thinking of it as free. But we're going to make sure that through the GCT, every child receives the education they need to the best of their ability, so as far as you can go. So as long as you are able to learn, whether it's at the basic school, primary, secondary, or tertiary or trades level, as far as you can go, this government of the UIC is going to take you there with the understanding that you must give back to your country by helping to pay for this education, not just for yourself, but for all Jamaicans.
Well, I'm going to go a step back to the crime, because crime is a big problem in Jamaica. Connor Campbell said, if the UIC is in position to govern in Jamaica, what policies will they enact to lower the crime rate?
Very good. One of the first things we're going to do upon assuming government in the next election is we're going to have what is called a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The way this works is we're going to invite every Jamaican, rich or poor, small or large, in the big community or the poor community, wherever you are, to come forward to the Reconciliation Commission and lay clear for all Jamaicans to hear what you know about crime in Jamaica, what role you may have played in crime in Jamaica, and who you know that have participated in crime in Jamaica. Should you be honest with the commission, you will be granted a pardon, and depending on the kind of crimes that you may or may not have been involved with, You will have a remediation program to help you get skills training and be reintegrated into society fully. Now, this goes for the Prime Minister down to the man in the lowliest of ghetto. All of them will be given an opportunity to come forward and set the record straight. Clarify for Jamaicans why we're in this mess. Let us understand who paid who to do what, when, and where. What kind of transactions went down that cost the lives of so many Jamaicans? For example, in 1980 election, we lost nearly 800, more than 800 Jamaicans to murderous violence perpetrated by the two political parties. Now, we want to get to the bottom of this. Now, after the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, those who did not come forward, those who did not turn in their guns, those who did not come and give us the facts, those who did not help us to understand and to bring to justice those who should be brought to justice who didn't come forward, they will then be hunted down like animals and exterminated. They'll be brought to justice. They'll face the full brunt of the law, and we shift into a new phase of Jamaica. This new phase is one where the justice system will be made accessible to all Jamaicans. Every single Jamaican, rich or poor, must be able to avail themselves of the law without being constrained for lack of capital. Everyone must feel comfortable and confident with a new police force, which we will no longer call a police force, but call a train or a police to respect Jamaicans, to serve Jamaicans, to protect Jamaicans equally. It doesn't matter whether you're a president or prime minister or governor general, you must be accorded the same level of dignity, respect, and service as any other Jamaican. And so we're going to change the police with training. We're going to equip them with the tools they need to do real investigative crime fighting, intelligence crime fighting. We're going to help the Jamaica Police Service to become an integral part of our communities. So you have community policing, where both the citizens and the police are aware of the law and how the law should work and how they can be a part of effecting that law to protect not only themselves, but all of Jamaicans. So when we're finished, Carlos, you're going to have a really new Jamaica, a Jamaica where policing is very different and the justice system is very accessible. And we're going to turn the page on crime by laying bare for all Jamaicans to see the true history behind what brought us here, who is really responsible for where we are today. And then we're going to have from the ashes coming up a new Jamaica, a real new Jamaica.
The Justice Department, we have been just on it right now. And I am among other people in Jamaica think that Justice Department overall. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. The first thing is, I mentioned this earlier on, it's very important, Carlos, for us to understand that all the problems we have in Jamaica stem from the system of governance that we have in place. So the system we have in place now, it doesn't give us the best quality of justice, because it is like everything else. If the Constitution is a corrupt instrument of governance, all the things that flow out of that Constitution becomes an avenue for corruption, which is why our legal system takes so long to prosecute those who should be prosecuted. That's why those who are really guilty oftentimes go free. That's why the vast majority of Jamaicans become aggressive, because they cannot appeal to the justice system to help them solve their problems. So they have to appeal to violence. They will, pay somebody to do a thing for them because they can't trust the justice system. They can't trust the police. So what the UIC is going to do is we're changing the system by changing the Constitution from what it is to what it should be. We're going to make Jamaica a non-partisan constitutional republic. This is how we're going to select judges, for example, we're going to have an executive branch of government which is independent of the Senate and independent of the House of Representatives, nominating justices, for example. And these nominations will then go to the Senate for a public hearing where these persons are publicly vetted for competence and for professionalism and for the fitness to serve in these capacities. Once the Senate has done its public hearing, it makes a recommendation to the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives then is empowered to vote in favor of or to deny the appointment of these persons. Once they're appointed such, they cannot be removed by the executive branch, but have to go through the same process of the executive branch making a recommendation to the Senate doing a review, and then making its recommendation to the House, and then the House making a final vote. This separation of powers will give us better checks and balances in the quality of persons we have serving, and in also overseeing the operation of the justice area, as well as we're doing the same process for appointing ministers of government. Presently, ministers of government are politicians who are given positions by their party leader, who happens to be the prime minister, by virtue of a lopsided type of election. The UIC changes all of that. We elect an independent executive, president, vice president. They nominate ministers who are not politicians, persons who are competent and qualified to serve in the ministries. They're vetted publicly by the Senate and voted by the House. If you don't have a good system, Carlos, you cannot get good results, even if you elect good people. So Jamaicans have to elect the UIC to change the system so that no matter who they ever send in the future to Parliament or to the House of Representatives or the Senate, no matter who they send, the system will have them on the manners and make it difficult for bad politicians to hurt Jamaicans, while making it easier for good politicians to do good for all Jamaicans.
I have a question. I have my own. Recently, I saw that the Auditor General recommended prosecution for some politicians in Jamaica. And I think it's going to be PPP desk. And I'm keeping an eye on it, along with other people, making sure there's a deadline coming up in March, in which they should hand over some documents, and if they don't, like I said, Auditor General has recommended prosecution of some politicians in Jamaica. I'm sure you're aware of it, sir. Could you really explain it to the audience right here? And how you do different so we don't have this kind of corruption if you get voted?
Right. Yeah, Carlos, this is so simple. It's amazing. But a part of, if you have a company, Carlos, if you have a company, let's say you are the manager for a company. Somebody hire you to run their company, and you are able to make things very confusing. So you create a situation where there's chaos, where you have so many people running up and down, doing so many different things, that after a while you lose clarity. You don't know who is really responsible for what, when, where, and how the process should go, and so on and so forth. That's a perfect system for you to steal, Carlos. I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA. And whenever I get called to a company to look at their books, to look at the structure of the company and so on, I can immediately tell a company which is prone to fraud, prone to theft, and prone to mismanagement. And it's all about how chaotic the company is. The more streamlined their process, the more checks and balance they have in place, the more orderly the process, the more transparent the process, the more well-run the company, the more profitable the company, the more competent the employees that they have, the more effective the company is. It's no different for a country. Now in Jamaica, we have many offices. You have ODP, you have the Auditor General's office, you have the Contractor General, you have Parliament, you have parliamentary committees, you have so many layers of government. You have the Financial Commission, you have the Electoral Commission, you have the Electoral Office of Jamaica, and you have all of these things. You have the Political Ombudsman, you have all these things, and yet still our country is a big mess. The reason is that these things are really designed as band-aids to cover up the reality of what's happening. In any country, all you need are very straight and clear laws. If you steal, if you murder, if you defraud somebody, you go to court, you're proven guilty or innocent, and if you're guilty, you pay the price. It's that simple. But instead, what they've done, Carlos, is to give us all kinds of acronyms, ODP, Auditor General, all kinds of things to talk about. And in the end, we still can't get anywhere. Once in a while, you have a rural read situation where it becomes so obvious and so convoluted that chances are you get hauled out in public and you might lose your job and you might go through the courts and maybe you find a loophole and you get let off. What the UIC will do is very simple. One set of laws for all Jamaicans, whether you are president, prime minister, minister of finance, permanent secretary, clerk, yard boy, bushman, it doesn't matter. One set of laws, one system of jurisprudence, one systematic process. Did you thief the money? Yes or no? What are the circumstantial evidence supporting the fact? And if you did, you are convicted and you pay the price. You do the time for having done that. It's that simple. All the other stuff, Carlos, is just smokes and mirror to distract the Jamaican people long enough for them to find a way to weasel out of it and thief some more of taxpayers' money.
So you're telling us now that under the current condition in Jamaica, we will never start the politicians steal and we'll never start the politicians to the jail and pay the price for it.
No, once in a while you'll have, depending on the situation. So let's say, for example, the current prime minister, as a minister he wants to get rid of, maybe for personal reasons, maybe they fall out. Then, it might set it up so that him get caught, you understand, with his hand in the cookie jar, and then him, back out and everybody pull away and let him get seen, But generally speaking, who they want to protect, they protect. Look at it. It's very simple. The current prime minister and I, we're about the same age. We're in our late 40s. The current prime minister and I've worked in the international community to the level of being a director of finance in the government of Canada. I have served as VP of finance for a school board in Canada. I've worked as financial. Sorry? Yes.
Repeat that line again for your reason. But I want to look at here every word you say.
Yes, no problem. So I was just pointing out that the Prime Minister and I were in our late 40s. And both, I have worked overseas and locally in Jamaica in very responsible positions, from Director of Finance in the government to Vice Principal for a school board in Canada to Finance Director in a major commercial enterprise in Canada, Financial Controller here in Jamaica, President of companies, CFO of company. Fine, so I've done that. Now, you check around Jamaica and see how many 40-something-year-old, between 40 and 50-year-old men in Jamaica who has the kind of wealth that our Prime Minister has. Now, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, he left university and went almost straight into politics. And somehow it seemed when our young men, particularly some young women too, but mostly young men, when our young men get involved in politics in one of these two parties, somehow it appears they magically can do far better than the average young man who did not get involved in politics. Why? Why is it that most of our 40-something-year-old men today. Why is it? Sorry? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, no. He has gone straight from university, about 1 year in a charity that may be associated with a political party. Then he worked for the then opposition leader who was Prime Minister, Edward Seaga. He worked for him as his assistant, and then immediately was transferred to becoming a member of parliament under that same political party. And that's it. Then next thing you know, he's qualified to be our education minister. And then next thing you know, he's qualified to be our prime minister. And next thing you know, he's richer than most 40-something-year-old males in Jamaica, far richer. And I'm trying to say to the Jamaican people, how is this possible? Why is it that most of our young men can't do as well financially as the prime minister without getting involved in politics? Why can't we have a country where the average person can go to school, earn an education, work hard, and they can be as financially successful as the current Prime Minister of Jamaica? And mind you, I'm not just picking on him. It goes across the board. The former Prime Minister, Portia Simpson Miller, was a poor little girl in Kingston. She worked her way up through the political party. And in no time, by the time she gets to the age of retirement, she is very, very wealthy. Why can't that be the case for all of our young girls in Jamaica? Why can't they achieve that without getting involved in politics? Why can't we have a country, Carlos, where once you work hard, once you pay attention to your schoolwork and put yourself in the marketplace and go to work and create and produce, you can be assured of a great likelihood of living a dignified life. You can have a decent home with proper furniture and proper plumbing and proper electrical, and the aesthetics is good. You can have a decent car. You can, send your kids to extra activities, extracurricular activities that are of good quality. You can have culture. You can have a decent grocery basket every week. You can live a decent life. Why is it that so many Jamaicans, the vast majority of Jamaicans, are suffering in this country, while those who happen to be in political power are enjoying such good life? They have beautiful homes, nice security system, nice cars. They can send their children abroad to school. If they're sick, they can migrate to a foreign hospital to get treatment. And they're living like kings and queens in this country, while the majority of Jamaicans are suffering. This has to stop, Carlos. This is wrong.
I don't think that's any politician whatsoever. She just come up in here to come raise the country and tell us that they don't have no desperate at the hospital. While everybody living fast, tell us all the MRI machine people can't say that they want to burn it. I just seen a young girl in Jamaica the other day. She was burned, 30-degree burn, and she was in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
My take, and I think bigger than that too. And my take on that is that girl that which was at that burning unit, she survived. But they understand that burning unit might be in Jamaica, but not in the public system. People have to go somewhere to pass this one. We have to start don't have the bed living, we have to start don't have no unsatisfied, no that we have a great toilet just to have to start. Because we have to start it and after the street clothes. The street clothes. That's what you know we really have to start. After that, we're not having a calendar or stuff like that. So Mr. Patterson, you actually should win. What we plan around when it comes to our kids. You got to be careful. And I can say whatever. We fight that good UIC plan, would you be able to go to one of these hospitals if you get sick and your kids sick, unlike these other politicians? Will you, if you come in, will you be able to fix the hospital good enough that your kids, your wife, and yourself could go to any one of these hospitals and that clever things like what is correct?
Absolutely. And you know, the first step to fixing this problem, Carlos, is to make sure that our politicians are not treated like gods. We have to make sure that they must depend on the same public services as the rest of us. We have to take away all the special privileges and perks that we give to politicians. Remember, a politician is simply an employee of the people. In Jamaica, we have it wrong. We have made politicians gods of the people. They are kings and queens and princes and royalty, and we worship them. The UIC is going to stamp that out. The worship must be done. The politician is there to serve the people. We have to make sure, you know, the key thing about the UIC that you need to understand, Carlos, is that when we say we're going to change the constitution, we mean changing it at its heart. What are we going to do? Right now, in the current constitution, the Queen of England is sovereign. This country is hers, and the Governor General is her representative here on earth. She's God to us, and he's her representation here on earth. And then they have their disciples, their minions, their chief servants, which are the Prime Minister and the opposition leader, and those elected to serve at her pleasure in the Parliament. The UIC, which is Jamaica's only, watch me carefully, the UIC is Jamaica's, one second. Some of the workmen are passing by with that. The UIC is the only political party in Jamaica that wants to liberate the Jamaican people. And how we're going to do this is by making every individual Jamaican a sovereign entity in this country. We will no longer have the Queen as sovereign. You, the Jamaican people, will be sovereign. Every individual. This is very important. So the constitution now will be changed to serve the sovereign people of Jamaica. And this means that your hospital, first of all, your communities, every community in Jamaica must be a safe, clean, and orderly community by right of the constitution. There can be no more ghettos. There can be no more community which doesn't have the same kind of services, the same kind of development as the best community in Kingston and St. Andrew. The entire Jamaica must be of the quality of a tourist destination. If you go to Raytown, if you go to Greenwich Farm, if you go to Gillingham a bit in Clarendon, if you go to White House in Westmoreland, if you go to Bogue in Montego Bay, or if you go to Breeze River in St. Elizabeth, the quality of the community must be of the same standard as the best community anywhere in the country. And that's why we're going to turn everything on its head to serve the Jamaican people, to treat them with respect. And when we start to treat the Jamaican people with respect, they will produce, because it's only by production that we can have good hospital. So we don't want the mindset that was created by our politician, where you sit down and wait for politicians to come and give you something. The UIC is going to pull us together to say, all the way, have to go to work and help to pay for good hospitals, good schools, good road, good sidewalk, good police service, good. But we have to produce and pay for it. And the purpose of the government is to facilitate that kind of industry, that kind of productivity, that kind of pride in our country, where the government don't allow garbage to pile up on the side of the street. We clean it up and we punish those who litter, and we provide bins for those who are traveling to drop their food in it, which they're doing, by the way. But when they drop the food in the bins, it stay there and rotten and get full and overflow. The dogs dig it out and the wind blow it away, because the government fail to employ a public works department with street sweepers and street cleaners that are designated and trained to maintain our local environment. So the UIC going to create a beautiful Jamaica, one that smells good, one that feels good, one that looks good, and translate that into our health system. Because if you don't teach the people now to take care of themselves, you don't want a man to not take care of his body and hoping that him go to the hospital and somebody else pay for him to be cared for. You want Jamaicans to know that we must live healthy. That's why we're going to bring in a nutrition program across the entire island where we teach people to eat healthy, to behave healthfully, to live a life that allows them to live long and strong and healthy, eating Jamaican food produced in Jamaica without pesticides and herbicides from overseas to give us cancer and kill us off. We want to get to medicine at its root, that is in lifestyle, how you eat, how you drink, how you sleep, how you exercise, how you have quality family, where you sit down and can talk and reason and communicate and overcome difficulties by negotiation and discussion as opposed to violence. We want to protect our young women from being raped at a young age so they can grow up healthy and strong and with their faculties intact to tackle the life challenges of being good economically. We want our young men to know that being dunce is not something to be proud of. You must want to have high quality brain power to produce artificial intelligence, to code wonderful software, to build automobiles and other forms of mechanical solutions. So it's a full product, Carlos. It's a comprehensive program, not these little piecemeal things. And so for that, we have to start at the Constitution, revamp it, and work it out into the lives of every Jamaican.
So people right here, I'm not going to be able to answer any questions. I get to every question. So there's a representative here from the UIC. Always in the comment section, I think Devon Thompson. He will answer your questions right here in the comment section. He has your people because I can't manage the people. And it's not very helping out. So that's it to go to by a lot of questions we'll ask, but Devon Thompson will jump. I do see him in the comment section. Right, the person that you people with people. A lot of you were not PHI, a lot of you people. But the first one, this is the second one, and I asked who was going to join and share this interview about Jamaica. People, we are Jamaica first. No PNP and labor rights. We are Jamaican first. One comment is first. We are Jamaican what? First. So this is our country we're talking about. You understand me? I love your country. You want to listen, you want to share, you want to discuss this with somebody. Spread it. Pass it down. All right, people? So we have another question. What are the concern about what are the most what are the questions that people ask all the time? And recently some people came to ask this question about the Chinese. But we have achieved that when we go home and learn that a bit of to go back and clean the politicians, so we go to the Chinese. And everything is just going one way in terms of the tax break for Chinese. When Jamaican own business are not getting tax break. And when I come to Jamaica, we see Jamaican own business are dying up and drying up. And the Chinese are spreading and making all the money. And our business are drying up and wondering what's going on. So, what would you do differently if you want to?
Very good. It's actually quite simple, Carlos. I mean, our politicians, as you have said earlier on, they've sold us out. They have gone for the quick, easy money. When a foreign company comes in, whether it's Chinese or not, it's the Chinese today, it's the Americans yesterday, it's the British before them. It's the same. So don't get me wrong, or let's not get it wrong. This is not about Chinese or any other racial or ethnic group. This is about putting Jamaica first. This is about protecting the interest of Jamaicans. So our existing political parties, the two major parties, they have specialized in finding quick money. You might recall back in the old days, they used to come home to us in Jamaica and boast about how much money they've been able to borrow. And we, the Jamaican people, in our ignorant state, used to cheer them on. We used to say, yay, that is good. You get another $14 billion tomorrow. Yay, happy. So we used to get very excited because we didn't realize what was being done to us. And all they were doing was borrowing money in our name on our heads so that they could then spend a little bit in the economy in terms of whatever they claim they were going to do, whether it's to build roads or to build schools or whatever, spend a little bit, and then to thief some of it to make themselves richer and to give special contracts to incompetent party supporters so that they too can feel good about the arrangement. And in the process, these monies are then wasted in terms of they're not invested properly in Jamaica. But we, the people, have to pay it back. So our taxes continue to creep up because as they waste the money and steal the money, and that funds dissipate without creating and building a better productive capacity for Jamaica, it has to be paid back with interest. And that money must now be paid by the Jamaican people in a number of ways. Here are some of the ways we pay it. We pay it back with higher taxes. Remember when the GCT just came in, it was about 7%, I believe. Today, well, recently it was 16.5%. It's now back down slightly to 15%. We have paid taxes, higher property taxes, higher NIS, NHT, education tax, income tax, more fees and services being charged for, and all kinds of stuff. So you pay with higher taxes. You also pay in poor quality public service. So you pay with bad roads, you pay with bad hospitals, you pay with bad schools, you pay with poorly equipped and poorly trained police. So it's not just higher taxes in terms of dollar, it's lower quality public services. So you end up with a more unsafe country because your police isn't paid properly, isn't trained properly, isn't equipped properly. So the criminals get the upper hand. You have borders not being patrolled properly and protected properly, so guns and ammunition come in. You have teachers not being trained properly, not being deployed properly, not being paid properly, so we don't have qualified teachers staying in the system long enough to build up our educational capacity. So they migrate, and so we become a brain drain situation. So our schooling is poor, our policing is poor. Then now the money isn't there or it's being wasted with people who are not competent civil engineers. So the roads are not built properly. So a road that should last for 18 years lasts 8 months. But we have paid for 18 years worth of service, but we only get 8 months of service. So that's wasted money. And remember, all of this money, we have to pay taxes. We have to pay interest on these money. We have to pay taxes to pay for it. So it cripples the economy. So the way the UIC fixes problems is by understanding the root cause so we can root out the cause. So sometimes people are looking for little simple answers. We don't give simple answers. We give you answers that are comprehensive. So what we're going to do, eliminate the reasons why the government gives special privileges to companies coming from abroad. They give it to them because they're coming in with new money, and the politicians, I lost my connection here with the gentleman. So let me see if I can get him back quickly. I'm not sure what happened, but we were talking about the why politicians bring in give special treatments to all of these outside companies, but the Chinese are not coming in. Why they do this? And it's precisely because it's new money coming in, and they want this new money because they want to access this new money. But they don't matter or care how it impacts you in the long run. In the short run, they want the money now to help them with their programs. Carlos, are you there? I'm trying to reconnect with Jamaican Carlos here. Not sure what happened earlier on. Maybe it's maybe the network connection or something else, or his phone hang up. I can see that some of you are not able to hear clearly. I hope it's improving over time. Doing the best I can to hold the phone, Yes, Carlos, I lost you earlier. All right. So are you back with me? Do you want me to continue? Yes, yes. I was just at the point where I was explaining that the reason all of this happened is that our politicians need this quick infusion of cash because they've wasted the previous cash, they have taxed us to death. And so the easiest thing to do is to give special concession to people coming in with big money. So that's why the Chinese or any other country, Chinese, Americans, British, anybody, Portuguese, it doesn't matter. Anybody who come with money, our politicians will sell us out to them because they want this big infusion of money. So they're willing to give away our land. They're willing to destroy our natural heritage with mining. They're willing to sign away any amount of Jamaica's assets to incoming cash flow because they need that cash. And why do they need this cash so badly? Remember, they have not created a productive Jamaica. So we, the people, are getting less and less productive with time. Okay? So more and more of us are being unemployed or underemployed, and we're just sitting down and looking. We can take a small, little job here or there. So we're now servants. So over time, these two parties will make us less than tenants. We're going to become squatters in our own country as more and more Jamaicans will have less access to their own assets, that the land that we have will be sold from under our feet, or mineral resources will have been extracted and left with soil that's devalued. Our rivers and stuff will become polluted. Our schools will have become substandard and not able to produce quality students that can match the rest of the world in terms of global economic competence. Our teachers, the best ones, would have migrated to get jobs overseas, or engineers would be gone. So all we're going to be left with here are the beggars and those who will hold the lowest job opportunities left to us, while the quality aspect of our country will be owned by Chinese and other international persons who come here and buy up and own the best of our land, which is why I came back from Canada in 2011 and bought property here and set up my roots and said, no, this is my country. I'm going to take my piece and I'm going to defend it. And I invite all of you to join me in doing the same.
So a lot of these policies that we that dynasty are like a money grabbing, money over kind of politics. Just money, cash flow, money, no, and really what get better. I told the guys all the time on my platform, we're not telling a line of people. We're no way on the reason. This no way you guys need to understand. Let me tell you guys these things. Jamaica is supposed to poor. How many times I ask you guys? Jamaica is so poor? All poor. Jamaica is so poor, that we can't afford best for that Africa. Jamaica is so poor. All poor. Jamaica is so poor that $400 million stolen from this medical municipal building. Jamaica is so poor. All poor. All poor people. How many times I ask you these things, people? How many times I say that we are that poor people? We are that poor. Politicians have got holding on and no accountability. So let's talk about accountability. It's a part of so how would you hold your politicians accountability? Accountability should do that under the UIC.
Very good question. I'm an accountant, as I said before, and one of the key duties of a financial controller or chief financial officer or director of finance or vice president of finance in a company is to ensure that you have effective controls, effective checks and balances. One of the things you don't do, you don't give politicians money to spend. You don't give politicians access to financial resources. You don't give them any say in the awarding of contracts. You don't allow them to interfere with the process if you want it to go well. So we need to separate the two. So over here, you need to have, for example, your police service commission, and their job is to ensure that the police can do their work properly, efficiently, and effectively. Again, they don't spend any money. They look at policy and procedures and how to ensure effective policing. Over here, you must have the politicians now who are representing their different communities, constituencies and parish and county and so on. Their job is to say, what's going on here? How much was budgeted for my community? How was that budget spent? What did the auditor say? And they will drill down and they will speak to their experience and their constituents' experience and hold up to the light of day what is going on in their community from an implementation standpoint. And then they point their finger over there to the police commission and say, based on your budget and based on your plans and based on what you said you're going to do, see that happen in my community. What's going on? And then the auditor now will audit the books and say, here's how the money was spent. Here's where we have a problem. And if there is any misappropriation of funds, or the funds are not being spent according to plan, or the country is not getting value for money, that is identified. And then, because the politician is not a part of that mix-up and separate from the police commission, and the executive branch of government is separate from the police commission, they can now prosecute a case, and who must go to jail, and who must pay back, and everybody's on their P's and Q's. But once you keep the system we currently have, where people can and are incentivized to cover up for each other, then you will continue to have the problems you have. So the UIC is going to take away the incentives for corruption, the incentives for cover-up, and create a system of proper checks and balances so that nobody can get away anymore with stealing taxpayers' money.
About the TV, I'm not having a Jamaica. It's not like that. If we come from the people that sometimes I will eat them 2 by 4 of people because we know some of the portion of people. It's like a charity. If on a charity, you know, that's the Jamaica, you know. If on a charity, people are not so over years that do they really thing. God knows Jamaica. Jamaica is so poor. How poor are we people? We're so poor that we cannot even afford and sanitize and soaps and toiletries in the hospital. Jamaica is so poor. Jamaica is so poor with over $3.3 billion questionable and social security people. People right here, many of people. So Mr. Patterson, let's go right down to prison. What's your plan in prison reform, sir?
Oh, a very good question. I love that. First of all, when a person goes to prison, okay, prison must serve 2 purposes. Prison must punish, and prison must provide some kind of compensation to both the society and to those who have been wronged. Currently, and of course, in all of this, it must serve as a reform institution. So it must reform your behavior. The key thing for us is, as I said earlier on, let's make sure that we have good policing, because good policing is going to make sure that you get quality evidence to prosecute crimes in court, and it's going to ensure that you have speedy convictions of those who are truly responsible. That's first of all. So you can't look at the penal system outside of the policing system. So we've spoken to that earlier on about policing. We also spoke about the justice system, because you need to ensure that you have access to justice, so that you don't have, like we have today, where the government goes into community, round up young men, particularly, throw them into jail, hold them for lengthy periods of time, some of them even up to 3 years, destroy their lives, turn a mild criminal into a big criminal, or create hate and stuff like that because of injustice. So we want a justice system that is responsible, responsive, and accessible for the Jamaican people. So justice and policing is key. Now, once a person is convicted of a crime and now goes to prison, what happens there? For one, we want to have good quality prisons that serve some key purposes. Number one, it must ensure that the person who is there is paying the price for his or her crime. And a part of that price is to make sure that society doesn't pay twice. Society must not pay in you having committed a crime, and then society must also pay for you to be locked up. So our prison reform process is going to put prisoners to work. They're going to be fully engaged in producing and paying for their stay in prison, while they're also learning skill or trade that is going to make them more useful to society when they come out of prison. It is very important. It is very important that a prisoner understands that he's there to repay his debt to society. Now, some debts you can't fully repay. When you murder somebody, that life can never come back. When you maim somebody, cut off a limb, the limb won't grow back. But of course, stealing and so on is more corrective. So we want to have our prisoners working hard labor, they used to call it, and they're going to help to revegetate the land across Jamaica with fruits and vegetables and all kind of permaculture, organic kind of production, so that the Jamaican people can start to benefit from these persons who are incarcerated. And they must learn a skill, and while they're learning the skill, they're paying for the cost of the training that they're getting. So when they come back out, if they come out, depending on the type of crime, they should be able to be upstanding citizens once again.
So because I personally like that, I feel that after this program, I believe that people should be making strong standards and doctors, but then leading past, because I believe that people should be making furniture for school. I believe that people should be feeding a police station. I believe that people should be feeding themselves. People should be farming so much that no food can feed them and come in the public and sell, make money to help fund the prison system.
Exactly.
You know? So that's why I think, and we have a question from the audience here on the line. Because everybody on the line right here, Winston Ellis, who said, know that we have pandemic and not having tourists here. What are we as people going to turn to as a way of economy?
Great question. What's her name again, Carlos? Winsome Ellis. Winsome Ellis. You asked a question that I've been waiting to hear all morning, because right now the Jamaican people are suffering greatly from the government's mismanagement of the pandemic. If you were around on my Facebook page when this thing started, I made very clear publicly to the government how this problem should be tackled. First of all, I advised the government that they should not make this a political issue. They must simply convene a commission of all the political leaders in the country, of the registered political parties, and to invite heads of major civil society organizations, including the church, and that we should convene a round table under the leadership of the Prime Minister, where we articulate a solution to the Jamaican people that will focus on protecting the interest of all Jamaicans and not simply applying a band-aid solution or a cut and paste solution, I said, that reflects what other countries are doing. Let us learn from them, but design a solution that is indigenous to Jamaica, that understands the reality of Jamaica. As you all know, we in Jamaica could not and cannot afford to lock down the economy and give people money. We don't have the luxury of a fake monetary system that supports, let's say, other first world development countries who can borrow almost limitlessly. We cannot do that. Our people live hand to mouth in Jamaica because of bad governance, of course. So they can't afford to stay home and stay safe, as the government suggested. They will have to go out and they will have to try to forage for food. And the government is in no position to simply provide all Jamaicans adequate amount of food on a consistent basis. So what the UIC recommended is that A, we make sure we're on top of this virus and understand all that we can up to the time that we do, that we communicate all of the facts clearly without any political associations to the Jamaican people, so they know it's coming not from just the Prime Minister, but the support of the leader of the other political parties and with civil society behind us, including the medical fraternity, the police, the justice system, and the army, all at the table, looking at how we're going to put forward a broad-based solution that will protect the life, liberty, and property of all Jamaicans. So this now would include, Winsome, this would include now any food distribution program to be done by the police, the army, and civil society, not politicians going around as they did with colors of their parties and their faces on anything, but we would distribute in an orderly, non-partisan, non-political way. We will also not shut down the entire country. We will close the borders to incoming traffic, while at the same time empowering our farmers and producers to continue to produce with all the information and support for security possible. Just like how nurses and doctors have to work in hospitals and take care of those who might be impacted by the virus, it is also important for our farmers and our producers to be fully engaged to keep the economy of Jamaica going. And we should then focus on educating our people, making sure everybody know how the virus works, how to protect themselves, and we should never take away the rights of Jamaicans to associate or to travel or to do business, but rather focus on educating, and supporting the people in making good decisions in our factories, good decisions on our farms, good decisions in our schools. As it stands today, we have ravished our farmers. We have ravished our small businesses. We have destroyed 1 year of learning and pushed our children back by decades. We have undermined every area of our economy and only provided an out to the biggest and best companies among us by giving them special permission of government to continue to operate while destroying the small man and his business. It is wrong, it is wrong, it is wrong. And the UIC stands in 100% opposition to this approach to managing the supposed pandemic. We need a solution that includes protecting the lives as well as the livelihoods of all Jamaicans.
People that are attending here. So, we have another question when it comes to the crime, because the crimes are quite a bit, but one of the biggest things, because even if we go and we have to carry water, and we get their wood, and the wood bags, we have to hold a chair for fire. But now we have a piece in Jamaica, we have a crime to find. Recently, last year, I heard that they found hundreds of guns off the street after they give the report. Hundreds of guns off the street found last year. But what I don't hear, Mr. Patterson, is who is selling the guns. Often I hear that the little youth them get arrested, get killed, they go to prison, they go to jail. Because when they stop, they only hear the story stop right here, when it's found guns. Somebody go to jail. We don't hear them try to go to a lot of kind of, we get the gun from like 3 beams and investigation, find out if it's Carlos is the one we bought the gun from. If it's Mr. Patterson is the one who is selling the gun in the country. Or if it's John Brown is the one who is the shipper from overseas. That never happened with that. No. If I'm on the street and people dead, what would be your UIC's approach? So plugging up all the moves that you guys here to talk about and who that keep coming in before them gun that was found and when they find the gun from the scene, more guns that come after, gun come before, no plug up the gun to find the gun. What would be your approach, Mr. Patterson?
Well, first of all, we have to make sure that we take accountability of what is going on here. There's no way that a country that does not manufacture guns and ammunition should seemingly have such an endless supply of guns and ammunition in our society that are illegal. it stands to reason that the only reason we have such a proliferation of guns and ammunition available in Jamaica is because some very bright people are using their gifts in the wrong way. And that some people who are in high position are facilitating this kind of industry. As you know, crime is a big industry in Jamaica. There are a number of companies that are making significant profits from the continued insecurity that permeates our society. So, if we want to fix this problem, we first have to admit and accept that until we see convictions of very wealthy, prominent individuals wearing suits and ties and walking into glass door buildings and sitting at the top of our society economically, until we see them being convicted and tried and convicted of crimes for illegally importing guns into the country and arming different gangs and factions. Until we see that, we know with certainty that the government is not doing its job. And so the UIC government, we're going to do our job by ensuring that we protect the borders of Jamaica, to stop the guns from coming in, and to find out who is trying to let the guns in, and to prosecute those who are buying the guns, because no, no little boy on the street, little 15-year-old or 16 or 17-year-old, they're not importing a gun successfully into Jamaica. You know, the 25-year-old or 26 or 35-year-old that can hardly read or write, he's not importing the guns into Jamaica. He can't even navigate the banking system, much more to organize such massive importation that can beat the system. So it means that there are people above him, and our UIC government is going to systematically investigate, incarcerate, and make sure that those people are brought to justice to stop the flow of guns. We have to disrupt the industry that it is supplying, and we have to have the kind of border controls that a small country like us can afford. Jamaica is a very, very small place to patrol and manage in terms of our borders. If we decide to put our money to good use and stop allowing it to leak away into the coffers of our political leadership.
We don't have to play the land here, drop there. I don't care no land. We play this drop, it's not like the beaches of it, all right? Let's play this too. If the UIC, don't tell us
Yes.
stuff happened there. We're not going to explain what happened. I'm sure everybody. If the UIC was in the talk, what would the UIC do different? What would the UIC approach this plane right here, this occupants or whatever?
Very simple. First of all, the moment the plane came into Jamaican airspace and was identified as something unplanned, because that's very simple. Now, once you enter the airspace, we have traffic controllers, we have all of that stuff, right? So we know that something has come into our space that shouldn't be there. The moment that happens, you deploy the army and the police to cordon off the area immediately. It's a small country. We can quickly get there. We have helicopters, we have everything. You just surround the area, and those persons shouldn't even get far. Within a few hours, they're captured. They're interrogated. All the facts are pulled out of them, so we know where they're coming from, where they're going, who they're affiliated with. We know which country they departed from. We get the manifest. We find out under what permits they were allowed to leave the country that they left the country in. We get their identities. We look into their background, see whether they are illegal in their own country, what their status is, what professions they are, where their family is, what business they're in, everything. But in Jamaica, I don't think our leadership have the kind of regard and respect for Jamaicans to do these kind of things. They don't really think that we are worthy of being treated the way other countries treat the security of their citizens. They think that Jamaicans are a plaything. If you look at them carefully, watch them, Carlos, look at our leaders carefully. They really don't have any regards for us, in all honesty. You look at the condition of our country, our roads, our communities. We're just, we're just, we're nothing to them. We're not important to them. So they don't do the kind of things to track down criminals of various forms and to really look into what's happening and to strategize and to analyze and to have proper data and intelligence and really looking out for our interests. We don't have that. The UIC is going to change that with just beginning to respect the Jamaican people and say, you know what? You as a Jamaican, you're worthy. You're worthy of the best quality treatment of any other citizen in any other country of the world. As a Jamaican, we are here as the government to fully and 100% protect your interests. And so, back to your original question, if we were in government, all the facts about this would be in an orderly and fashionable way coming out to you, so you know exactly what's happening, who is at fault, why did this happen. You'll have a step-by-step chronology of events and how we have protected your interests. Of course, some things would have to be held back initially for security reasons until we can verify, and then we will systematically bring you up to speed. But you wouldn't have to be doubting and asking like you are now. You would know that you have a government in charge. You would know that your government cares about your interests and that you can just wait. And they have announced through a press briefing what's going on, where they are in their investigations, and say, please wait for further notice, and then you can be assured of full disclosure, and we move on from there. As it is now, the Jamaican people have no reason to trust the government of Jamaica, and would be very foolish to trust the government of Jamaica with anything.
Well, I felt that we do this for what we tell right here, I said it all the time here, but they don't hear people.
No.
People, we tell all the time, Jamaican people, don't come on my program all the time and telling people, Jamaicans are poor. Are we so poor that we can afford bed sheets? People, they don't care. People, bird units, CT scan, people, your son gets hit in the head by a motorcycle accident. Your child cannot go to the hospital and get a great check to find out what happened. I lost some refuge last year. I lost a brother about 30 years ago to the same thing. About 5 years ago, I lost my brother to the same thing. Go to the hospital, cannot check his brain. He's dead. Doctor don't know what to search him. We would have equipment 40, 50 years ago, and we don't have it today. Nobody cares. So listen to this question, Mr. We don't give a special brief. We don't know how to explain the pilot. It's done. It's done. It's 2 days story in Jamaica. Most recently, we've read a story and an article in the paper. I brought it to my people right here. I was with the top son was in Westmoreland with some of his friends there, and night having that. I don't know what he was drinking, having a party or conversation. It was on the beach in Westmoreland. The village hell was in Westmoreland, and 2 Nicaraguan national came here. And he and his friend tied them up. I did the story on my page here, people. He and his friend with a tough stand, the new stuff here, they roped them up, tied them up. And there's another national who came there. I think it was a friend of that one, and they first them and they roped them up and called the police. And the soldier, I heard that the army came, the police came. The third national from Nicaragua, it was said that escaped in a boat, sir. Escape in a boat. How are you going to escape from my country in a boat? What kind of boat is that? So that means they don't care. This doesn't mean that you don't care. What will you do? Tell us what will you do? What will you do as it is your government? Would that boat escape?
Well, first of all, somebody would have to be terminated from office to allow that to happen. There's no way we can have a Coast Guard in Jamaica. No way we can have an army and a lone individual just comes to our shores. 3 of them come to our shores, and then one is able to just run off in a boat so easily. But the truth is, I don't know all the details of the situation. So, let's say, for argument's sake, that it's true that the person escaped. that can happen. But your earlier point is critical. We need to get proper briefing from the government. We need to have confidence that the government is being transparent with us. We need to be able to say with certainty that we can trust our government. And right now, for the most part, the government has given the Jamaican people more than enough reasons not to trust it. It has failed in managing so many areas of our economy, from the losses in Petrojam to the magnificent losses in our Ministry of Education and CMU, to recent findings by the Auditor General's office. There are just so many areas where we cannot trust the government. They made decisions during this COVID crisis that has left Jamaica in a very disadvantageous position for political expediency, political gains. And so the real issue, Carlos, is trust. Can we trust the government? Can we depend on the government? Does our government respect us? Is our government standing up for us, or are they selling us out, whether it's to the Chinese or others? And the point is, we simply cannot trust the government. And we have given it more than enough time. We have given these two parties more than 75 years to build trust, more than 75 years to build the productive capacity of our nation, more than 75 years to give us a safe, clean, and orderly country. And on all accounts, they have failed. They have given us a very unsafe environment. They have given us a very dirty and polluted environment. And they have created chaos and disorder. And they have left us with a country which is largely filled with persons who are not operating to their full capacity simply because the government has failed them. This has to stop. And I have to appeal to all of your audience looking here. We, the UIC, cannot do it without you. We're just men and women like you. We're not even politicians. I have no experience in politics. I have experience in government, managing finances. I have experience in business. I have experience in finance. And the rest of my team, we're all ordinary people, engineers, accountants, logistic engineers, managers, teachers, students. But together, if all of us pull together and say enough is enough, we want to take back Jamaica, we want to take back our country. We can't continue this way. We want real good governance. If we pull together, because we're not getting money from the private sector, there's no big company in Jamaica that's going to give us 1 cent, because we're coming to stop the gravy train. We're coming to stop the way that they're able to use two parties to manipulate us and trick us and trap us. So they're not going to fund us to destroy their system. So the only people who are going to fund us to break up the bad system of governance and put in place good government is you. It's you and me. We have to come together to make this happen. So I'm appealing to all of your listeners, Jamaican Carlos, that it's by their contribution to the UIC, uicjamaica.com. Go there, read about us. It's by you coming and joining hands with us. Look at our symbol. Our symbol is the Jamaica, the physical outlay of Jamaica with two hands coming together, gripping each other to say, let's pull ourselves up. Let's work together. Let's join hands together to create a real new Jamaica, a Jamaica where every single citizen is a sovereign. We no longer have no queen or governor general. Instead, we have a country that says you, the individual, are important. And the purpose of government is to protect your rights and to empower you to be the best person that you can be.
Yes, people. So we've been on for about an hour and a half to people. And don't make me talk, and they can't come in high people. We'll get the problem for this one. We'll talk about it. Things on the sleeping time. Maybe it's for you. It's not about me. But let's go me and my me and Mr. Patterson to sleeping time. We could never sleep. This is all about you people. And for you to get information right here. I'm not even don't know Mr. Patterson. A lot of you guys didn't even know all these things going on in your country. I'm telling you right now. A lot of you guys didn't know that these things are going on in your country. So the Patterson, give me a closing argument. Give me a closing argument, like the explicit that I was going to say about the Patterson first. Mr. Patterson just said a while ago. It's asking of you, it's depending on you. This movement is our movement, people. The UIC. People are not trying to be asking of people. Oh yes, because we kind of pay on the right people. Then I told you they're not getting off the sideline. You think I'm talking? I'm not getting off the sideline. You're not talking. I'm 50. What do we have to lose? What I'm saying to the liberal done people. All these serious people. I'm dead serious people. I want to leave out. I want to try. At least, make us get over 2x4 and swipe off of it. Make us try. You know, if you know, opinion, let's walk off of it. Let's walk the way there so we can get some candy all out of these people. Let us try. Let us try, people. What do we have to lose? All these years, both parties, my grandparents speak about corruption in both parties. My parents speak about it. No, me, I tell my kids about it. Do you want my kids to tell their kids about it to tell my grandkids? What do we have to do, people? Let's make a walk out of the thing out there. Just get some candy out of it, right? Not the most. Anyway, people, we have this party right here. Please give the people the closing argument. And before you get into that, people, this is a crowdfunding party. People is not a big corporation, people. Send donation, people. And they need volunteers, people. They need donation, people. No matter if $1.50, no matter if 75 cents, $1.99, no matter if ship out the piggy bank, $10, $20, everything add up, people. Everything add up. You know, a million people from Jamaica overseas, and they don't care about the country that much. Think about the millions of people overseas. I think about the everyone of $65, $10. That's an evil. We can move people. I see some people, they have one question before. I let them be a closing argument with that. Well, what do you think of the people are with it? With these two parties in Jamaica, the people and labor rights, what I think somebody said there, they're going to join forces to squeeze the out. How are you going to manage to really go on that? What are you planning, Mr. Patterson? Tell me.
No, they have already been ganging up to squeeze us out. I mean, the two parties currently sit on the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. And some of you might know this, when the UIC tried to register as a political party, they set the rules, you know. They operate for practically 75 years without anybody setting any rules for them. And they operated as two parties, and then come 2018, they brought in some new rules to say now they want anybody who want to be a party need to follow these rules, and they put these rules in place. And they really never expected anybody to follow it, any challenges to come, because when they put these rules in place, all the other little parties that existed all just frittered away. They all just died away because, you know, they know it's a hard road to travel. It's hard to go out there and for poor people, people who, like myself, you have your job to go to, you have work to do, right? For you to go find time now to go knock on doors and find money to go across the island and get people to sign up and then to pay them the money that they want you to pay them and fill out all the forms that they want you to fill out. And when you fill it out, they have a group now, their group, which includes the two parties on this commission, which they falsely suggest to the Jamaican people that this electoral commission is an objective entity. No, it's a bipartisan entity. It's a JLP and PNP entity designed to control the political system, to prevent others from truly participating in it. And so they took 10 months fighting against us to prevent us from becoming a party. And we fought them with our limited means, went out and we got over 1,300 signatures, and we raised the money and we went and paid, and we took the time, fill out all the forms, and battled with them over them saying they don't like this or change that or what is this or where is this and whatever. And we battled through. And finally, when we went public on the radio and television and start to point out how they are treating us unfairly, which they didn't do to the other two parties during the registration process. They finally gave us the registration, not even properly. With the other parties, they had big celebration function and handover ceremony and made it public and showed all Jamaicans. With us, like Nicodemus in the night, they just simply announced to the Jamaicans that we are now a party without even telling us that they were going to announce. So we didn't even get to prepare for any press briefing or whatever. So they try everything to undermine us. So you're right. They are going to try to stop the UIC. But you know why they can't stop us? Here's why they can't stop us. It's now 75 years of history. Somebody said you can fool some of the people all the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And so now the UIC can show the Jamaican people, they know it already. Here is the evidence. These two parties have had more than 75 years to create a safe Jamaica, a clean Jamaica, an orderly Jamaica, a Jamaica with a prosperous economy, a Jamaica where every citizen can live, earn, and retire with dignity. But they failed, and they continue to fail. The crime rate continues to go up. The exchange rate continues to go up. And the unemployment rate continues to be a problem. Young people can't find work. Young people don't have hope. Suicide is going up. All kind of diseases are creeping in because they have destroyed our agricultural sector. They're mining out our land, selling out our rights to all these other countries coming in, and they're taking our money, stealing it, and taxing us to pay back the interest and the principal. So the evidence are there. So the Jamaican people know that they're failing. All the Jamaican people want now is a political party that is well resourced, because the Jamaican people don't yet fully understand that money don't fall from heaven. Money don't come down from sky. So they want, they want to see a third party, but they want the party to look like the other two, meaning they must be well financed and can do all the stuff that they're doing, not realizing that we don't have the resources them have. Them have the funding of the biggest and richest Jamaican companies, plus overseas assistance to help them to continue to trick the Jamaican people. We don't have that. They have full-time politicians and offices and staff that are working around the clock in communities to trick the people and get them ready to go vote for them at election day. We don't have that. But what we have is the truth. We have truth on our side, and truth will triumph if all of us now come together. And as Jamaican Carlos said, give your $1, your $2. That's American and British pound and Canadian. And in Jamaica, give your $500, your $1,000, your $5,000, your $10,000. And if we pool our little resources together, we can communicate across Jamaica. We can pay for the all-island tour. We can go door to door, house to house. I've already done it with my own money. Since I've started this, I've spent $10 million on this, believe it or not. $10 million of my family, my wife and I, our own retirement fund, where we try to save up for ourselves. I've spent off our little money. She's trying to wondering what's wrong with me. Spent off our little money to communicate, to build this movement. And so now we, Carlos, we have to come together and pull this off. Yes.
Before we go further, tell the community, where can we go if we want to do it right this minute? Where should we go?
So, right now, you can go to uicjamaica.com, www.uicjamaica.com, and click on the donate page, and you can donate right this minute. You can also communicate with us. You can contact us through that page, anything. You can go there right now, uicjamaica.com, uicjamaica.com, and you can donate. And you can volunteer. You can volunteer to build a chapter in your community and say, let's get together and meet and plan fundraising activities and talk about the policies of the UIC and help to influence the way the party operates and make sure that your concerns and your causes are fully integrated into our solution. It's all about us, friends. It's not about me or you, it's about we. And we can make it happen if we come together.
Dear people, I mentioned about Bernie Sanders movement. Bernie Sanders movement moved small donors people. Bernie Sanders movement, I learned this type of movement from Bernie Sanders movement people. Like a crowdfunding movement. This is to change the country, people. This is a country. Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired, people? What we want? What we want people to, like me said, they are 15 more. We're not looking to lose. Me, I'm 50. We have nothing to lose if we try something else on behalf of the offspring, them, the grandkids, them, and the great-great-great-grandkids. We will ask them, Daddy, they want me to see around, Daddy. Why didn't even give them a chance, Daddy? So you're going to tell me 50 years after today that these two parties are all corrupt and you never give nobody a chance. So, people, we can go support them to the people who never check it out. And today I'll be giving my first donation to the USD. People, I will be making my first donation to the USD today.
And I can tell you, Jamaican Carlos, maybe they're on right now, but when you join the UIC movement, you're entitled to your financial statement of how every penny that you donate is spent. We have a vice president, Ms. Paulette Mackenzie Williams, who oversees our finances. We have a treasurer, Stan Blake, who manages our finances. We have two other vice presidents who are engaged in other areas of the operation. Devon Thompson, who takes care of all of our publicity, marketing, and everything. Mr. Winston Wright, who manages our operations. We have a general secretary, Dr. Marvin Kelly, who ensures that the organization operates legally and above board. We have a executive assistant who supports me and the other VPs. And we have a beautiful young lady, Camille Gulrajani, who is our chairperson, who chairs our monthly board meeting and oversees the general efficacy of the organization from a constitutional standpoint. So we have a very solid team, and we're continuing to recruit and train and orient members of parliament candidates and councillor candidates so that come the next election, within the next 2 to 3 years, and I say 2 to 3 because it is very possible that this government may have to relinquish power if it continues to slip down the path which it is. And we're going to have all 63 seats being contested, all 268 councillor positions being contested, and we are going to deliver by the next election that new hope for Jamaica by first winning the elections, followed by changing the constitution, followed by enacting a new system of governance and economic framework, which will see to a grassroots economy that supports and empowers all Jamaicans.
People, you know that yesterday video, and I told the guys that we're going to take somebody from Jamaica who, one of us in the diaspora, or who went overseas and go back to Jamaica, and then keep themselves overseas and come back with the good goods. And this guy just bring a difference to the Jamaican crowd and something different to the table, other than crookedness and stealing money and selfishness. I just want to put the money in your pocket and the crime over the country, and you can't stand the crime because of the time the crime should be telling right away, like the Patterson is saying, 3 weeks are going to be inbound, we get trouble in it too. That's what the Patterson is saying. The crime is supposed to fight the right way in Jamaica. And the top are going to be get involved in it too.
Exactly.
So people want to come back. Make sure you fund people. Make sure you fund people. You say money in the miracle of people. People that talk they want a new body here, God come. You don't feel the man say a while ago people. They're talking a raw farm. When they start calling them, you know, around the thing. People that talk they want a party to God come. They're not funding it, people. Money in the miracle of. This one is not asking for $1 billion viewers. Well, if you're happy and you want to be kind enough We shouldn't have a parties that are refuse it. But we have small donor people. So now, so what you have the money, I'm going to money, I'm a car, no money. That is not what we're talking about, people. Every nickel make a muckle. Jamaica get up off the sideline like I am. We're not telling you this, but try to sit up on the sideline and become stupid. We talk about we can't go to Jamaica. We can't do nothing, people don't crime. So here come the chance, people. Let's do it for once in a while here. Like that, we're ready. We're ready, people. Coming ready. I'm here to give my first donation today. So go ahead and talk about the thing.
I was going to say to Carlos, this is really important. The UIC, none of our candidates will be coming from any of the two existing political parties. I myself, I have never been a member of either of the two parties. Now, it doesn't mean that we welcome everybody, So if you were a JLP or you were a PNP, it doesn't matter to me. You're Jamaican, that's what matters. So we're unifying. But in order for us to ensure that we don't taint the movement in any way, we want to ensure that our candidates are persons who have never represented either of the two parties before. This is very important. We want to make sure that you are coming with a clean slate. We want to give Jamaica a fresh start. In the future, you can run, but for now, we want to make sure that it's people who are hardworking Jamaicans, people who have not learned to see government as a meal ticket. You understand? Government is not a place you go to become rich. It's not a place you go to get any form of economic benefit as a person. You go there to create a Jamaica where we can all benefit because the entire Jamaica is well developed and well managed. So that, a little boy like myself, a poor community in Kingston, should have been able to simply set up my operations honestly, without having to go into any politician to get any special blight or blessing, or to worry about any gang leader. Yeah. Yeah.
Explain to the people where you're coming from. How will you get the scholarship on education? Please, before you because some people might believe just see your story, your jewelry, and don't know your story.
Yes.
Please explain it to the people. Right here, how you get education. How it all started.
Yeah, man. So I was born in the rough of Kingston to a single mother. She had 3 children at the time, and we lived in a very small 1-room house, 1 bed, 1 table, 1 stove, 1 cabinet, and a TV on the top of it. She had to struggle to put food on the table for us. Every day she had to work hard. She sweep street. She was a crash program worker. She sweep street for the government and work out in Marbley Park and those areas. And she washed people clothes on weekends to add a little more money. She cook fish and sell. And I used to sell at a bus stop. When I was like between 8, 9, 10. I sell at a bus stop, chewing gum, cigarette, whatever, sweetie, ice cement, set up my little stall and stuff and try to help her, to send us to school. And I failed common entrance twice, and I failed the technical entrance as well. So I ended up going to a secondary school, Spanish Town Secondary, where you send rejects. You send the kids who can't learn and can't get anything done. And at Spanish Town Secondary, at that point, I went to live with my father and stepmother. I left home and tell my mom, "You're really trying too hard and everything." My father looked like he's not doing too bad. Let me go try to see if I can live with him and ease the pressure. So I went to live with my father, who was a child laborer, really abused me in terms of, just working with the bones without anything. It was very, cheap and mean. But in any event, I heard my stepmother said to my dad once, she said that boy Joe, the fella don't look like he can learn anything with him head enough. So send him to a school to do something with his hands. And so they sent me to Spanish Town Secondary to learn a trade. But when I heard that, something stirred inside of me, and I said, well, I must be able to do better. And my mom always said to me, she says, just keep trying, never give up, never give up. You can do better. No matter how much I fail, she was always there backing me, always supporting me, always pushing me, to join the library, do something, try to learn, whatever. Because she didn't make it because she 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 got pregnant, she got pregnant as a teenager, and so she had it really hard, So 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 we had a hard time, very hard time, and so by the time I was 16, I really started doing very well in school, on my own initiative. I decided I had to do good to help her, And so I promised her, I said, don't worry, mom, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to do well. I'm going to take care of you. And so I managed by the time I finished secondary school, I had done very well, passed a number of subjects. I was head boy, founder of the science club, drama club. I led the quiz team, captain for the quiz team. And so after that, I got a scholarship to go to St. Anthony Technical High School, a special place to go to the trade section to learn electronics. In about 3 months, they transferred me to the main section. They said, boy, I mean, you're doing so well here, so they transferred me to the main section. So I became head boy of the school, math club founder and president, student council president, vice president for the junior achievement, literary club editor, Gleaner article writing competition winner, president for the Key Club. I represented Jamaica in the US twice. And so my mom was so proud of me. She said when the Gleaner reporter was interviewing her for the newspaper, because they had this big splash in the newspaper about my performance and stuff. And she said to him, words can't express how proud I am of my son. And that just really hit me, to hear my mom say that. And from there, I studied engineering, got a job at a sugar company as a junior engineer and then assistant manager. I also taught school, taught math and engineering science and physics at Kingston Technical. And then I started my own company, Patterson Institute of Education and Technology, where I trained bankers and adults who wanted to get back into or get certifications for their jobs. So I started training them and built a business out of that, borrowed some money from the bank, paid them off in 6 months. A young man, I was 23, which was impossible. You don't do that, in Jamaica back then. No bank is going to lend you $30,000, but the people vouched for me. These adults that I was teaching, and one of them was a bank assistant manager, so she vouched for me. And so that gave me a push. And then I got married to my high school sweetheart that I met in the grade 8, and we promised each other that after college we'd get married. So as soon as I finished college, we got married. And we had to decide where to live. But, her mom was in Canada, so she said, hey, let's go to Canada, man. She was already living there when she came back. And so we decided to move to Canada. And there I became an accountant, a CPA, built a business, raised our family, 3 beautiful girls. And the sky has been the limit since then. We have just done so many different things. I've served in so many different places, been to so many different countries, worked with 120 different countries, been to Africa, India, China, and just met some wonderful people. And now I serve on the board of one of the largest microfinancing institutions in the world as chairman of the board. I'm very proud of that because it's really doing a heck of a job helping people across the world to gain financial independence by providing microfinancing to people who otherwise wouldn't have access to capital. To build their businesses, to acquire solar energy, and to invest in farming, and so on. So yeah, that's roughly my story. That's where I'm coming from. And so when I speak on these matters, that's really the genesis of it. I want to see a Jamaica. I want a Jamaica that is no less than Canada. Canada is a safe place compared to here. It has its problems, but they have learned and figured out how to create a safe environment, how to create a clean environment. And they're more of a market economy, so they allow people to really succeed. And I found that once I dropped in the Canadian environment, it was a lot easier than it is in Jamaica to succeed if you have vision and if you have drive, if you have the will to achieve. And Canada still has some poor policies on economics, but at least it's much better than Jamaica. And I came back here in 2011 saying, I want to create a Jamaica that's no less than Canada. It must be, we can have a safe Jamaica where people can come back and live and retire if they want and build whatever they want, big, small, whatever. You shouldn't have to worry. You shouldn't have to be afraid to buy a car of the type that you want or to build a house or wear the clothes that you want. You should feel free to be who you are. And people must not feel like somebody's going to hold them and rob them and kill them because of what they have. So I know we can do better. I want us to do better. And I'm committed to creating that better Jamaica for all of us to enjoy.
The fact that was my was that was such a bad history. Where you're coming from, and it reminds me of a lot of us, that poor background people. It reminds me of a lot of us people. You guys know me and know that I come up here and I'm proud of my background. I'm proud of going to school barefoot. I'm proud of cleaning water and the wood on my head because the media is stronger man to their people. And you need to speak about these things, people. Yes, but I also tell you that. If a man who never has no food in his cupboard, a man who's always with food in his cupboard and Patrick, you don't know nothing about hungry. If you always have water, you don't know nothing about thirsty. This man right here is no more hungry. This man right here is no more begging and nothing regularizing, no stress out like I was telling out. But it's done up a fire and you grew up struggling like any one of us. And you know what it takes to raise a struggling child in Jamaica. And if I do all of that dirt and grind, climbed up. These are the man who are for the moment. Mr. People, they will support Mr. Part of the people. As many of us over here, a lot of us over here, people, we could put with energy behind Mr. Part. Go on the piece and check him out. Mr. Part, give him the last word there, so come and get probably tired by now. You're there to go on. All this man, they are not people. Do all the work and turn this man and justice. Because at times, do our fault, the man answer every question, every notice. If not go on the question, everything, then go on the question. Get in the comment section, if there's any question you think, Mr. Pastor does not answer correctly or you would like him to answer. Get in the comment section, I mean, you know, people here, so we jump on the question and never stop until you get a comfortable answer. So go ahead with the final statement, Mr. Pastor. You know what I mean?
Thank you very much, Carlos. I mean, it's been a pleasure. My inbox, my email inbox is filling up now with my clients waiting on me to answer them. But it was really a pleasure, being on your call, and I'm happy that people had a chance to learn about the UIC. We don't give you the usual feel good, feel nice suggestions and solutions. We are really focused on true solutions. So sometimes we won't even agree immediately. Like when you read some of what we're talking about, you might say, "Oh my gosh, that sounds so different." But calm down and just read through our manifesto carefully. And what you're going to realize about the UIC, our focus is on protecting the individual even from the government. Because there are criminals, and you have criminals who are legal criminals, and you have illegal criminals. You have people outside who have guns and stuff who they're not authorized by the state. They're criminals. But then you also have people who are in the government, authorized by the state, who have access to gun, who have access to laws that they can use against you, who have access to authority they can use against you. And they are criminals. So the UIC want to build a Jamaica where you as an individual, you're protected from criminals inside and outside government. Your right to your life, your right to your freedom, your right to your property. So when you work and earn something, The government shouldn't be able to just take it away from you by just arbitrarily increasing taxes or arbitrarily putting regulations on you that kills your business while protecting another person's business. So we want a government that is for you at the very individual level, right up to the family, right up to the community, and of course to the entire collective of the country. We want to protect your rights at every stage of life. From a baby, when you're born as a child, your parents might not have it like my mother didn't. It doesn't mean you shouldn't get a good education. Your parents might not have it like my mother didn't, but it doesn't mean if you get sick, you shouldn't get good quality health care as a child. And you should get good food. And you should have a decent house to live in with indoor toilet, a decent kitchen, decent living room, and so on. But none of it not free. So we also want you to be responsible and be a part of the process to pay for this. Don't feel as anybody else must give it to you. Is we must work and make it happen. And what I want to leave you with is that if the parent of a child is failing, we, the rest of society, is going to pick up that child, ensure that child achieves or receives rather the things that he or she needs to achieve. And then we're going to hold you accountable as an adult to say, play your part, man. Help another child to also benefit. And we're going to hold your parents accountable. Fathers, like my father, who did not live up to his responsibilities when I was born. We want to hold all fathers and all mothers responsible for the children they bring into this world, but never allow the child to suffer. The UIC is a liberation party. We are a party that is going to empower you as an individual, and we're a party that is going to put Jamaica first and make sure that nobody will come in our yard and come thief our resources or control our land. Nobody must be allowed to do that. It's going to be Jamaica for Jamaicans, and we're going to be welcoming to all other nations.
So, you hear that, people? So, Mr. Patterson, that's it. Supposed to be on for over 2 hours, people, in order to come and hear with us in this community. Hanging out with us about a culture we make, correct? Because the most of the people are female, and we have some hard core men here who are leading it too. So, and this video is going to go on. So, Mr. Patterson, it was wonderful to have you on board here, sir. I'm looking forward to hearing you another time, because in the second time we have Mr. Patterson. The first time that you heard Mr. Patterson was on this platform, and the next time Mr. Patterson come up here, they take it off. So get somebody, go to the UIC Facebook page, go join it. Go join it, people. Go and like the page. Go and follow them. Just like you follow Jamaican Carlos. Go to the UIC and follow them. That means anything put out there, you can get it safe of it right away. You can join the regular monthly town hall meeting. You can be into them, right there to people. Join to them, people. Don't forget they need money. Money make the beer jealous. Nobody ever only thing they need what? Money. People. Money make the beer girl. We're not only thing, people. We're not care about $1.99. We're not care about 25 cents and a half. We're not care about people can go in their car pocket in their cup holder. They don't care what and they're putting on their car seat. Find something out the donation to make it a further donation to this party because it's our country. People are glad no more to the country. Cheers. We most of us want to go home. Cheers. Those are part of the thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Carlos. All the best. We're talking again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you. Take care.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye, my friend. Okay, so that was the conversation with Jamaican Carlos. Again, my name is Joseph Patterson, president of the UIC Jamaica. It went longer than I anticipated. I thought we're going to be on for about 30 minutes. We have now done 2 hours and 8 minutes, and but it was well worth it. And I'm hoping that we were able to reach a lot of Jamaicans here at home and across the diaspora, and that we can just come together and work together to create, remember this, a real new Jamaica. Must be real, must be new, and of course, Jamaica land we love. Don't be fooled by any fake solutions. We want real solutions. That means a new system of governance, and it means new leadership, and it means a direction that protects the rights of every citizen equally, no matter what. One law for all Jamaicans. Thank you. God bless you until we meet again. Take care.